We had Lynette Burrows, the author of Good Children, a commentator on child discipline. We had her on the programme just before 9 o'clock. She was basically saying smacking your child, in moderation obviously, is okay. I was disagreeing with her, but huge number of texts coming through. Derek says, Shane, a slap on the hand never damaged the child, but shows that there are limits to what they may do. Another text says, disagreeing, says coercion doesn't require violence. Joe says, Shane, Ian, my kid is 18 months, bit a child in creche, biting at home too, so I bit her back eventually. She stopped, nothing wrong with it. I'm sure you got a clipping when you were young. Did it honestly do any harm? Good show. Thanks for that, Joe. Look, I do think what happened 20, 30 years ago, I think it was different. I don't think you can necessarily compare parenting then with parenting now. Sharon says, can you give out the author name again of Good Children? Sounds like she knows what she's talking about. It's Lynette Burrows, and it's the author of Good Children.
Well, Ray in Galway is not agreeing with her. I have 3 well-adjusted, caring and loving teens. I've never slapped them. I've damaged joints and missing teeth from the beatings I received as a child. Some adults cannot control themselves. Children are great. All they need is reasoning and love, and that's from Ray in Galway.
Okay, our Friday panel is here. We're joined by Jennifer O'Connell, columnist with the Sunday Business Post, Darren McCullough, presenter of Ear to the Ground and deputy editor of the Farming Independent, and Orla Carmody, journalist, producer and media consultant. Let's stick with that issue first of all. Jennifer Connell, where do you stand? Do you agree with Lynette Burrows?
No, and I don't set myself up as being the perfect parent. I do lots of things wrong. Like I shout at my kids on occasion. I guilt trip them. Lots of things I do.
Sounds very familiar.
The timeout step gets used quite a lot. But no, I've never slapped them, and I never would. And I don't see how you can teach them on the one hand that it's all right for you to hit them, but it's not all right for them to hit each other or for them to hit other kids in school. I just don't think it's right.
Yeah. Orla Carmody, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Timeout step was big in our house as well. In fact, we had one child who sat on the timeout step once, and at the end of the 3 or 4 minutes timeout, we said, okay, Cormac, now you can come off the step, good boy. And he said, no, I'm staying here. And he stayed there for about 4 hours. I mean, he put it up to us.
Yeah.
So kids are very, very challenging.
A lot of people say timeout step just doesn't work.
Well, it works amazingly well. It does teach them, the whole thing is separation. The only punishment a child ever needs is separation from you, because they're obsessed with you. So just separate out, 3 minutes, be good, come back to me, rejoin when you're good. And I mean, everybody will tell you, every child psychologist will tell you that's what works, until you come up against a particularly thick one who takes after his father, I have to say, who challenged us. But the point is, kids are terribly, terribly challenging. And as Jennifer said, nobody is perfect, and we try to do the best we can, but you are just letting yourself down if you slap a child. Just never, ever is my view on it.
What about the argument, I've heard it from some parents, that look, they don't hit their kids, but there comes a time when, for example, one of them would ran out on a road or whatever, and they react really quickly, and they say, look, this is so serious, I just need to strike home a message that they can't do this again because it's so dangerous. And in that situation, they would give them a slap. Anything to be said for that?
I would think what you need to do in that case is slap yourself, and then you'll understand how hard it is. And this was something we often did, and it's a funny thing and it sounds weird, but you catch the child's hand and you say, don't ever do that again, and you give yourself a good slap on the back of the wrist, and you actually hurt yourself, and the noise and the shock has the impact on the child, and you say, gosh, had I done that to the child, that's how it would have felt. It was a simple thing, and it worked for us, and it was that instant get the reaction when you needed it.
Okay. Darren McCullough, do you have a view on this?
Well, the wooden spoon was the greatest threat in our household.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
But you know what, I don't think my mum had it in her really to use it ever. I might have got a little smack of it once when it was a squirt, but I think she spent more time rattling it in the drawer. Now listen, if you do that again, and the drawer would rattle, and this threat of the wooden spoon, it was more the threat of it than anything was the biggest weapon in our house. I guess, look, there's lots of things that were acceptable 10, 20, 30 years ago, and time has moved on, society's moved on.
Totally.
And Jennifer was just commenting on a scene you witnessed in a restaurant.
Yeah, I was in a restaurant
recently.
having lunch with my family one time, and I just happened to look across at the other side of the restaurant, and there was a father having lunch with his 2 daughters, and he leaned across the table and just, very casually whacked one of the little girls across the face, and she didn't look particularly startled, and she sort of struggled to control herself, and she didn't even cry, which to me suggested that it wasn't that unexpected, it wasn't that out of the norm, and I felt awful for the rest of the day. You know, when you've seen something and you can't shake off the memory of it, it really actually upset me, which made me realise just how uncommon it is to see something like that, and how far it is from being socially acceptable.
Okay, one last text on this. I have 4 kids, aged 2 to 7. I'm always complimented on their excellent behaviour in school, etc. I've never hit my kids. I use the bold corner and decline privileges after warnings. Declining privileges might mean missing out fun on like a play date, etc. They're living proof that it can work. Hitting is quicker and easier, no doubt. That thing of declining privileges, or is that something that you would use as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, you can't you don't ever threaten a child. If you don't do that, if you don't, start behaving, I'll stop doing that. And you say again, now if you're not going to behave, I'm going to do this. If you're ruining it by actually all these threats that are not carried through. You have to say to the child, behave now or you're going on the step. Okay, straight on the step. You have to stick with it. Or if you say, if you do that again, the privilege will be declined. And you have to do it.
Easier said than done. I know,
to be so firm with yourself rather than with the child.